After the collapse of the USSR, numerous abandoned or unfinished marvels of Soviet engineering remained. One of them is a strike missile-carrying Ekranoplan, capable of sinking any vessel with a single missile. The Lun-class Ekranoplan was used by the Soviet Union and Russia from 1987 until the late 1990s. But something went wrong. A bit of background. An Ekranoplan is an aircraft that combines the speed of an airplane with the seaworthiness and load capacity of conventional ships. Its distinctive feature is that it flies in close proximity to the water surface, utilizing the ground effect. The ground effect can be observed, for example, in the flight of a crane as it glides close to the ground. The ground effect operates exclusively near smooth surfaces. It essentially pushes the aircraft or bird away from the ground or water. The Ekranoplan has many advantages. It offers greater fuel efficiency and load capacity than an airplane. In terms of speed and combat capability, it surpasses any surface or submarine vessel. It is virtually invisible to ship-based radar. Having analyzed the potential of this type of craft, the USSR began development of this flying machine. In 1987, a 300-ton hybrid of an airplane and a ship was launched. The Lun, named after the Russian word for the bird of prey. The Harrier, also known as Project 903. It was created at the Central Design Bureau for Hydrofoil Vessels, named after Rostislav Alexeyev. In August of 1967, an American spy satellite captured something extraordinary. A giant flying over the Caspian Sea at a speed of 500 kilometers per hour, resembling an airplane 100 meters in length and weighing 200 tons. On the hull of what appeared to be either a ship or a plane, 2 letters were visible. KM, which foreign intelligence services decoded as Caspian Monster. This is what the giant that came to be known as the Caspian Monster looked like. It was the largest aircraft in the world, the KM Ekranoplan. The abbreviation KM stands for Korabl Maket, meaning prototype ship. Why was it called the Caspian Monster? The vessel's trials took place in Dagestan on the Caspian Sea. And as for monster, I think you can figure that out for yourself. Now look carefully. Here is the KM Ekranoplan, and here is the Lun Ekranoplan. As you can see, these are 2 completely different objects, yet most people confuse them, and the Lun is often called the Caspian Monster, which is entirely incorrect. Now back to the Lun. In July 1986, the Ekranoplan was launched and redirected to Kaspiysk for further testing, which began in 1987 and continued until 1989. In 1990, the Lun was transferred to the 236th Ekranoplan Ship Division of the Caspian Flotilla for experimental operation, which continued until 1991. It was built on the basis of the KM project. Structurally, the Lun featured a monoplane-type fuselage, a trapezoidal wing, and a T-shaped tail assembly with control surfaces. The hull was 73 meters long and 19 meters tall. Just imagine, 19 meters is the height of a 5-story building. It was divided into 10 watertight compartments and had 3 decks used to house service equipment and the missile system crew. The Lun carried 6 Mosket missiles on board. Just 4 of them were enough to sink the largest aircraft carrier. The machine was armed to the teeth, thanks to its high speed of 500 kilometers per hour and its near invisibility to radar at low altitude. It was impossible to detect, meaning the Lun could easily approach aircraft carriers within precise missile launch range. Only aircraft could have caught up with it. Despite its large size, the interior of the craft was extremely cramped due to the enormous amount of instruments and equipment on board. A total of 8 Ekranoplans of this type were planned, but only 1 ever reached operational status. Another one remained unfinished. The Lun was classified as a missile strike Ekranoplan ship. Its primary mission was the destruction of surface vessels with aircraft carriers as the top priority. Its high speed and relatively low radar visibility allowed it to close in on the enemy at fairly short range and withdraw just as quickly after an attack. Its speed made it easy to outrun even helicopters, yet at the same time it remained highly vulnerable since all effort had gone into offensive capability, while the defensive systems were left comparatively weak. The Lun's vulnerability lay in its massive size and poor maneuverability. It could not withstand retaliatory strikes, as turning this enormous machine was incredibly difficult and time-consuming. On top of that, there was triple the fuel consumption, as well as the inability to fly over land. Testing also revealed that the Ekranoplan would crash just like an airplane, even though it was originally believed it would be able to land on water and remain afloat for up to 5 days. Another major drawback, one that had initially been presented as an advantage, was that the military assumed the Ekranoplan would be ideal for the surprise landing of reconnaissance groups. However, the very first tests proved this direction to be a dead end. The deafening roar of its engines, audible along the entire coastline, gave away the landing site, within a radius of dozens of kilometers. I can try to explain the root cause of all these shortcomings. At first, I thought this machine was simply ahead of its time, but after digging deeper, I came to a different conclusion. After all, the history of Ekranoplans did not begin in the USSR. The Soviet Union merely adopted the brilliant idea of Finnish engineer Toivo Kallio. In the 1930s, he was working on applied aerodynamic theory. In simple terms, he was studying what is now widely known as the ground effect, and later built his own prototype of what would become the Ekranoplan. In 1939, the military took an interest in his work. Kallio received financial support, and his working model was upgraded. It flew at a speed of 130 kilometers per hour. The war dramatically changed the Finn's life, and he set Ekranoplans aside. But the Soviet invasion of Finland did not pass without consequences. You can probably guess, most likely all of his research notes on Ekranoplans were successfully taken away, after which the development of these flying ships on Soviet territory began. Now pay attention. Compare the speed of the Finnish Ekranoplan and the Soviet 130 versus 500 kilometers per hour. The enormous monsters, the prototype ship, and the Loon were built to cruise at speeds 2 to 3 times higher than what Toivo Kallio had originally identified as the economical range. And the economical speed is anything below 100 knots or 185 kilometers per hour. And that is precisely why nothing worked out. In my opinion, it came to nothing because at that time the superpowers were fiercely competing to outdo one another. The military demanded missile ships with far greater speed. The First Cold War was underway, and the Central Committee of the Communist Party, the Soviet marshals, and the Kremlin dreamers all wanted high-speed, super-heavy flying machines. And they got exactly what they asked for, at an enormous cost, and in monstrous form: the Caspian monster. The Lun. The only Lun-class model sat unused for a long time at the naval base in Kaspiysk. Russia's Ministry of Defense has no plans to revive the project. The massive Lun must have been magnificent in its time, but it has long since become a piece of aerodynamic scrap metal left to rust on an abandoned pier in southern Russia. To me, the Loon is a symbol of that great and mighty country, one that was capable of creating such projects and was, in certain respects, ahead of the entire world. I am not inclined to romanticize that era, and I would very much not want it to return. But the fact that we were unable to preserve the best of what it produced and use it as a springboard for a leap forward is deeply saddening. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to check out our other video.